For half a century, the world saw Ron Howard as the golden boy of Hollywood, the child star who became one of the industry's most respected directors, but was the charm we admired ever the full story. In a rare and deeply honest interview, Howard spoke about decisions he still carries with him to this day. What really happened in 1991 that keeps him awake at night? How does someone win Hollywood's biggest awards while quietly watching a loved one spiral out of control? And what made his body finally give out on set? What he revealed may stay with you long after the credits fade. Born into the spotlight. From toddler sets to Hollywood dreams, Ron's journey wasn't just about fame, it was about family, discipline, and the choices that would define him for decades. But what lessons did he learn before he even understood the word career? Ron Howard entered the world on March 1, 1954, in Duncan, Oklahoma. Long before he understood what a film set was, that world was already waiting for him. His father, Rance, had traded his birth surname for a stage identity years earlier, balancing military duty with the quiet ambition of becoming an actor. His mother, Jean, came from the same world of performance. Acting wasn't just their profession, it shaped how their home functioned, how stories were told, and eventually, how their son would grow up. By 18 months, Ron was already on set in Frontier Woman. While other kids learned first words, he learned camera marks. The set became his playground, and schedules replaced normal childhood routines. Soon after, television's center of gravity shifted west, and the Howard family followed. They packed their lives into a single car and drove toward California, not in search of celebrity, but to be closer to where opportunity was moving. Ron was still a toddler when he found himself surrounded by script meetings and stage rehearsals, appearing on Playhouse 90 before he ever sat in a classroom. In 1959, his younger brother Clint was born in Burbank. By then, the family's effort was fully aligned around stability and control. With no studio-appointed guardians, Ron's earnings were managed within the household. His father accepted every role he could, more than 100 film appearances and nearly twice as many on television, not to elevate me, but to remain around long enough to guide his son's trajectory. At 6, Ron became Opie Taylor on The Andy Griffith Show. His father treated the set like home, shaping the show's heart while guiding Ron through his first taste of fame. For 8 seasons, he didn't just perform. He matured under calculated care, learning lines with the discipline of an adult while still eating dinner in a modest Burbank kitchen. His schooling took place at everyday local institutions: Robert Louis Stevenson Elementary, David Starr Jordan Junior High, then John Burroughs High School, where he was treated like any other student once filming ended scripts might have sat near the dinner table. But boundaries were clear. Work ended when the cameras stopped. Childhood was protected where it could be. Even as Ron memorized lines and learned camera cues, he often wondered what a normal childhood would feel like. Could a kid survive both homework and Hollywood rehearsals without losing himself? His parents guided him carefully, keeping the family grounded and protecting his childhood, even as Hollywood became a daily presence. Childhood between scripts and schoolyards. Ron Howard may have grown up on television, but before he ever directed award-winning films, his earliest lessons came from juggling 2 worlds: sports on the weekends and studio rehearsals during the week. His younger brother, Clint, also stepped into acting, building an impressive list of credits over time. To most families, childhood meant play. To the Howards, it meant performance schedules and production calls. Ron's acting was never about delivering lines the way child actors typically did. His father, Rance, trained him to listen and respond naturally, focusing on truth rather than theatrics. That quiet discipline became the reason producers noticed him so early. By 6, he was already earning for his work on The Andy Griffith Show, but the growing attention came with a cost. His private childhood gradually gave way to the demands of fame. A turning point arrived during a 1963 episode where Opie Taylor cares for orphaned birds. At just 9 years old, Ron delivered a performance with stillness and genuine emotion, without relying on typical child actor tricks directors needed minimal retakes. But the maturity he showed on screen came from an inner self-control few his age possessed. School happened in a trailer on set, away from friends. Ron felt the gap between his on-screen life and the childhood he missed. At 8, he took on a major challenge with The Music Man. The film demanded musical precision he struggled with. He had difficulty with rhythm and felt overwhelmed during dance routines. To make it work, scenes were cleverly framed and audio enhanced in post-production. What audiences saw was effortless. Behind the camera, it required intense coaching and focus. Early on, Ron displayed the instincts of a director, studying scenes, mapping movements with toy figures, and learning storycraft from his father's guidance. Those techniques would later influence his directing work, starting with Grand Theft Auto at only 23. In 1966, Ron took on The Monroes, a Western filmed in Wyoming's rugged landscape. The experience pushed him out of the studio environment he was familiar with. He learned on the spot, horseback riding, weather challenges, working in natural settings, but the series was canceled after only 26 episodes. He was 13, and it was his first real professional disappointment. Though The Andy Griffith Show remained successful, the failure of The Monroes left him questioning, for the first time, whether dedication always led to success. Ron Howard faced disappointment early, but he learned patience young. In the late 1960s, after years growing up on sets instead of playgrounds, he turned down a chance to audition for the Brady Bunch. His parents had a rule. One of them had to be home during work hours. They weren't managing a star, they were raising a kid. At 14, Ron wanted a normal life more than another role, and in hindsight, it cleared the way for something far bigger. By 1974, at 19, he became Richie Cunningham on Happy Days. Unlike other teen actors, Ron didn't try to perform, he simply was. Audiences connected instantly behind the scenes. He already had a sense of financial responsibility. Residuals from The Andy Griffith Show gave him steady income, and his parents guided him to save wisely. A failed go-kart business taught him an early lesson in risk and responsibility. The end of The Andy Griffith Show in 1968 marked the close of Ron's childhood. Cameras had captured more of his life than playgrounds or classrooms. By the time Happy Days began, he was balancing school, auditions, and an identity that no longer fit neatly into a child actor's box. His role as Richie was perfect for viewers, but by season 5, reality outside the screen was pressing in. The Vietnam War raged in the news, but Richie remained untouched by it. Ron suggested storylines that reflected real-world issues, even writing a memo about Richie facing the draft, but the network refused. Subtle references made it in, but not enough. That frustration sparked a turning point. Acting had given him fame, but he wanted something more: control. He wanted to tell the story, not just play a part in it. By the mid-1970s, Ron had become the face of a generation on screen, yet the quiet drive inside him kept growing. Could a teen actor really balance fame with the desire to direct his own path? From Richie Cunningham to the director's chair, by 1976, Fonzie had taken over pop culture. Jackets, toys, lunchboxes. People couldn't get enough. ABC even wanted to rename the show Fonzie's Happy Days, but Ron knew what was important. He told them the title had to stay or he would walk. ABC backed off, and Fonzie got top billing. It was a quiet but powerful win, showing how much Ron understood the value of respect and control. That year, Ron got his first chance to direct an episode of Happy Days. The budget was tiny, and the schedule was tight. 32 scenes in just 3 days, but he came prepared with a detailed plan. One tracking shot through Arnold's diner, usually a long, complicated scene, he nailed in just 2 takes. Ratings jumped, ABC trusted him with more episodes, and Ron realized he could shape the story, not just play a part in it. Ron began directing early. At 23, he co-wrote and directed Grand Theft Auto with his dad. With real car crashes, chaos on real streets, and family on set, the $602,000 film made $15 million, proving Ron could create, not just act. By the early 1980s, while building his directorial career with Night Shift and Splash, Ron relied on his wife Cheryl's support to keep their family life grounded. Giving him the confidence to pursue more ambitious projects. Ron was ready to take bigger risks. Night Shift, a dark comedy about a morgue-run escort business, introduced Michael Keaton to audiences and earned Henry Winkler a Golden Globe nod. The film was bold, edgy, and proved Ron could make smart, exciting movies with a studio budget. And just as Hollywood began to recognize his talent, Splash arrived, another leap that would solidify his place as a major director. In 1984, Ron directed Splash, a magical tale of a man and a mermaid. Daryl Hannah swam every underwater scene herself, carrying a 35-pound tail test audiences demanded a happy ending. Love won, and the film cemented Ron as a major director. Riding that momentum, Ron and Brian Grazer founded Imagine Entertainment in 1985. They started small but ambitious, producing films, TV shows, and eventually hits like Sports Night. Over decades, the company would earn 43 Oscar nominations, 198 Emmys, and more than $15 billion worldwide. Their offices in Century City reflected the growth, $4.5 million renovations, and a bustling team, all driven by vision and persistence. Then came Apollo 13 in 1995, a technical marvel. Ron recreated NASA mission control, filmed 612 zero-gravity sequences aboard the Vomit Comet, and orchestrated explosions with exacting precision. Every light, every switch, every radio chatter had to be perfect. The budget was $52 million. The movie earned $355 million and 9 Oscar nominations, winning 2. But the cost to Ron was physical. After 90 straight days of 18-hour work, he collapsed from exhaustion. The crew paused, and when he returned, they wore shirts reading Mission Control. It was more than a film. It was a testament to his dedication. Not every gamble paid off. In 1999, EDTV cost $80 million, but earned just $50 million. He had passed on Castaway for it, and its release was overshadowed by The Truman Show. The loss stung, but Ron learned, adapted, and pushed forward. By the end of the decade, Imagine had 23 projects in development, a 140-person staff, and annual funding for 6 $60 million films. The 1990s alone brought $2.3 billion in earnings, cementing the company's place in Hollywood. Even as the box office soared and critics cheered, Ron knew success came at a cost. He often asked himself, was the price of perfection worth the personal sacrifices he couldn't undo? In 2001, Ron directed A Beautiful Mind with a new approach. He wanted the audience to feel John Nash's experience, not through flashy effects, but through silence, timing, and trust. Hallucinations appeared as Nash perceived them, and most scenes were shot chronologically, letting the story unfold naturally. Ron visited Princeton 3 times to get it right. The result: a masterpiece. On March 24, 2002, he won the Oscar for Best Director. Yet beneath the accolades was a deeper truth. A Beautiful Mind reflected not just Nash's genius and pain, but pieces of Ron's own life, decades of pressure, risk, loss, and the quiet struggles behind the camera. Even as the film succeeded, critics noticed the omissions, the parts of Nash's life left untold. And in that tension between truth and storytelling, Ron's journey as a filmmaker, brilliant, demanding, and deeply human, shone through. After A Beautiful Mind, Ron had proven he could turn complex stories into box office hits. The movie earned over $313 million worldwide and won 4 Oscars. It showed him that even when reality is trimmed for storytelling, audiences still respond to heart and emotion. But by 2006, Ron faced a different kind of challenge. He directed The Da Vinci Code on a $125 million budget, with Tom Hanks as Robert Langdon. The Catholic Church refused access to key locations, forcing the team to recreate entire churches digitally. At St. Sulpice, even tiny measurement errors caused headaches, and scenes meant for Westminster Abbey had to be filmed instead at Lincoln and Winchester cathedrals. Lincoln charged $100,000 for a few days of shooting, and at night, fake copies of the Mona Lisa were needed to get the right shot. Despite the chaos, the film grossed $758 million worldwide, a massive success, but a grueling process behind the scenes. Hollywood triumphs and personal sacrifices. Amid the work, Ron quietly grieved. His father, Rance Howard, the man who taught him how to act, listen, and live in the moment, passed away in 2017 at age 89, just months after Ron's mother, Jean Spiegel Howard Rance, had spent decades on sets alongside his son, appearing in films like Apollo 13, Splash, A Beautiful Mind, and TV shows from The Waltons to Grey's Anatomy, even earning an Emmy nomination. His death marked the end of an era for Ron. In 2008, Ron took on Frost Nixon, a story of power, pressure, and public accountability. On a $25 to $29 million budget, he recreated the tension between David Frost and Richard Nixon, studying archival footage to capture every nuance. When Frank Langella delivered Nixon's confession, the room held its breath. The film earned 5 Oscar nominations, including Best Picture and Best Director, but only made $28.5 million, a rare Best Picture nominee that lost money. Through it all, Ron had a constant anchor: his family. He married his high school sweetheart, Cheryl Alley, in 1975, both 21. She had acted herself and understood Hollywood's pressures, but she protected their home together. They raised 4 children: Bryce Dallas, twins Jocelyn and Paige, and Reed. Ron sometimes stumbled. He directed Bryce's first school play at 5, hoping to nurture her talent, only to later apologize for pushing her too early. She forgave him and later carved her own path, starring in major films and earning her own success. Ron gave his other children space to grow on their own, learning from that lesson. Not all family battles were easy. In the 1980s, Ron's brother Clint struggled with cocaine and alcohol addiction. Once a child actor himself, Clint felt left behind while Ron's career soared. By 1990, he hit rock bottom. Ron confronted him with a choice: get help or risk losing their bond. Clint chose recovery. Years later, in their 2021 memoir, The Boys, they reflected on the pain and guilt, admitting that fame and success could strain even the closest ties. Through triumphs, mistakes, and heartbreak, Ron's story remained one of resilience, balancing the relentless demands of Hollywood with the fragile, complicated world of family and love. In 1991, Jocelyn was born, and Ron's world shifted. Just a year later, he left for 6 months to film Far and Away in Ireland. When he returned, Jocelyn barely recognized him. Bryce had grown, and Cheryl had managed everything alone. The experience left him shaken. He promised to avoid long international shoots, but in 2005, Cinderella Man pulled him away again, making him miss more of his children's lives. Decades later, during their 50th anniversary, he quietly donated a bench at John Burroughs High School, where he and Cheryl first met. It was a small gesture, but a reminder of the moments he couldn't get back. Ron's career continued with highs and lows. In 2020, Hillbilly Elegy for Netflix was harshly criticized. Though Glenn Close still earned award nods that year, he also released Rebuilding Paradise, a documentary on the 2018 Camp Fire that destroyed 14,000 homes and killed 85 people. His mother-in-law had lived there filming over a year. He called it the hardest project of his life. By 2025, he explored new territory with Eden, a survival thriller set in the 1930s Galapagos Islands. He had imagined it 15 years earlier and began outlining it on vacation. Despite a $55 million budget and a cast including Sydney Sweeney, Jude Law, and Ana de Armas, the film earned just $1 million. The failure left him anxious and doubting. Setbacks weren't new. In 2018, he had taken over Solo, a Star Wars story, reshooting 70% of the film, yet it still struggled. For Ron, success and failure had always been intertwined, but the personal cost, the moments missed with family, weighed heaviest of all. By 2025, Ron Howard had faced it all, the wins, the losses, and the moments no one sees. Solo nearly ended his career, but family, especially Bryce, reminded him why he kept going. He returned to directing, taking on new projects, and proving his love for storytelling never faded. 50 years of marriage, decades running Imagine Entertainment, more than 50 films, and hundreds of awards later, he still stays humble. Thanks to the lessons from his father. He mentors young directors, sharing both the craft and the challenges of the journey. Through all the awards, setbacks, and long nights on set, Ron's story reminds us that every frame of life matters. If a camera followed your every step, which moments would you want the world to see? Ron remembers the little moments too, the empty seat at dinner, the bench at Burroughs High, the child who barely knew him after months away. All of it shaped him. Life, he shows us, is made of scenes, some joyful, some hard, but all part of the story. Which part of Ron Howard's journey speaks to you most? Share your thoughts in the comments. We'd love to hear.